Hello everyone! I've seen a lot of people share their heartbreak stories, and initially I never wanted to share mine, but I believe it will make feel better and less burdened if I share my story. My name is Cody, 32, and my ex-wife Maria is 2080 as of the time I share this story. Maria and I had been known each other for a long time before our love story began. I met her at a friend's wedding, and from there, we became friends, got to know each other, and we fell in love. Not that I'm very proud to say this, but Maria was my first real love, aside from the 1-week-old relationship I had in junior high school. I don't know if it was the young adult me judging qualities, but as of that time, Maria possessed all the qualities I wanted in a woman, and she was caring to a fault. I was, and still is, the kind of guy who loved to be alone, stay at home all day if I'm given the opportunity, and I really sucked at making friends. The first time I saw Maria at the wedding, I knew there was something special about her, and I am quite sure the reason she came to speak to me was because she noticed the numerous eye contacts from my end. I just could not keep my eyes off her, and being the nice and flirty girl that she was, she excused herself from her friends and came to say hello to me while we were trying to take pictures outside after the church wedding. When she did, our conversations flowed, and I can't really explain how, but we found ourselves hanging out more and going for dates after dates. The sweetest thing about Maria was that our goals and visions aligned. We loved the same music, loved the same things, and it was almost like the universe match made us to each other. The only difference between Maria and I was that she was an extrovert and I was an introvert. She was the kind of girl who cared a lot about her friends and even strangers, and if you didn't know her well, you'd think she was hitting on you or flirting with you. Unlike the other girls I had met, Maria had a passion for her education or anything that would help her develop the quality of her life, and she understood that she had to work hard to live the kind of life she wanted, and she didn't think she was going to get her dream life by marrying a rich man, or marrying an older man who would will his property to her after he passed away. Maria was a go-getter, and she knew that if she was going to get anything she wanted, she was going to work for it. I guess it was this passion of hers to become a better and improved version of herself that pushed her into becoming a personal development coach. Maria and I dated for 2 years, and those 2 years were one of the most happiest moments of life until Maria messed up. I promised her I would never mention this again, but now that I write story, I can't help but recap everything that happened between us right from the beginning. I have realized that it was really stupid of me to think a leopard would change its spot. I knew deep within me that I wanted to give her a second chance. During the second year of our relationship, Maria cheated on me with a colleague of hers from college, and I caught them in the act when they were rounding up, but I could not walk away from our relationship because of everything we had been through together. That day was a very tough day for me, and with Maria continuously crying and pleading with me to forgive her, I had to choose Maria. I tried walking away, but it was very difficult, and because of how much I loved her, I chose to give her a second chance because she assured me that it was a mistake, and she promised that it would never happen again. She cried so much and threatened to hurt herself if I didn't forgive her, and that made it very hard for me to walk away. I was quite young and in love, and no matter how much my friends called me a fool and other terrible names for choosing to continue with Maria after catching her red-handed with another man, I refused to listen to them, and we carried on with our relationship. To even think that I cut off some of my very good friends because Maria made me believe that they were trying to ruin our relationship because they were jealous of me and my happiness. After Maria assured me that she would never cheat on me again, she made me promise that I would never bring up the topic or memory again, and while we were together, I never did until now. Till date, I still ask myself why I allowed Maria to hurt me like that and get away with it. To be honest, I don't really think it was about love. I think it was because I was afraid to find someone else that would love me like Maria. But years later, I realized that I was wrong about my perception of love, because what Maria did to me wasn't love, and if she loved me, she would not have done the things she did to me after that. Back to the story. After this incident happened, Maria and I moved on, and a year later, I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. We met both our families, and when they approved our wedding plans, we had a small wedding, invited a few friends and family members, and had a small party afterwards. Since we were both young and were started life on a fresh slate, we rented a small apartment and we moved in together as a couple ready to face life together. Fortunately for me, I was able to get a decent office work with my college degree, and the pay was okay to take care of Maria and I until she got her own job. Before Maria got a good job, I made sure that I provided the little things she needed because I knew she earning $5. 10 per hour was not going to get her anyway, and that's why I supported her as much as I could at her as much as I could. I took care of the rent, groceries, and she only paid transportation fare to work and other little things her money could do. When she got a good job with her dream coaching organization, we were very happy because the job came with a good pay and it took her closer to her dreams. After saving for the first few months, we moved out of the smaller and uncomfortable apartment we lived in and rented a better and bigger apartment. Not just that, other areas of our lives improved too, and we were able to take trips, visit the places we had on our wish list, and do the little things we could afford. I tried my best to make Maria happy, even when we did not have children as early as we expected. She would complain about it and cry to bed most nights, but I kept telling her they were couples who had no plans of having children, and they were happy with their lives. So not having children did not mean we wouldn't have a happy marriage. To be honest, when I knew how deep she was affected by her inability to conceive, I made up my mind that I would still love her the same whether we had children or not, and if she kept pressing on the issue, I was ready for us to adopt a child. The first 3 years of our marriage was not easy for me and Maria, because of how much she anticipated getting pregnant. She visited the gynecologists as much as she could, but nothing could be done. Every time she returned, she'd say that she was checked and they could not really detect the reason she was unable to conceive. Then she'd begin to cry all over again. When I could no longer take it, and how the issue of not having a child was taking its toll on her, I told her to stop going for those checks and assured her that she'd have a child when the time was right. Unfortunately, she refused the idea of an adoption, and 7 years passed us without a child. Did all of this because I loved Maria so much, and I didn't want to see her in any form of pain, whether emotionally or physically. As if going through all of this was not okay for us, something even more terrible happened. I was at work one day when I got a call from my wife's phone, and when I answered the call, I was told that my wife was involved in a car accident and my attention was needed immediately. I rushed down to the hospital she was taken to, and that's when I got the news. Maria was hit by a truck, and because of the impact of the accident, she sustained a spinal cord injury and would not be able to walk on her own without assistance. Hearing this news alone broke my heart. Maria had been through so much in the past years, and being involved in that terrible accident was the last thing she needed. I could literally see and feel the pain she passed through, and I tried as much as possible to support her during that season of our lives. Because of the degree of her injury, we stayed in the hospital for 3 months, and after 3 months, we moved back home. She had already begun to heal, and I knew I would play a major role in how fast she healed. I knew Maria would have been there for me if the reverse was the case, and that's why I tried everything possible to make sure she got the help she needed, and I supported her in every possible way I could. All through this time, Maria stopped working and we depended on me for feeding, rent payment, and every other bills. I must confess, it was a lot for me, but I just had to do it, and because my work demanded a lot of my time, I could not stay at home to look after Maria, so I had to hire a caregiver and a physiotherapist for her. They came highly recommended from Maria, and because she was comfortable with them, I had no other choice than to hire them. The caregiver worked really hard, and he only assisted Maria for the hours I was not around. That is to say that he only worked till 7 p.m, and whenever I returned home from work, I would take over from wherever he stopped. Though he was a guy, I wasn't really bothered because he was much younger than Maria, and I trusted Maria, so it didn't even cross my mind that anything could go on between Maria and the young caregiver. Whenever she told me about how he took care of her during the day, I'd probably tip him or verbally thank him for looking after my wife. It wasn't until I returned home from work on my day off that I realized the caregiver was not just caring for Maria physically, but he was caring for her in bed too. That day, before I left the house, Maria knew it was supposed to be my day off, but the office called me and I had to go. I told her I had work to do and I wouldn't be returning until evening, so I guess that's why she thought she was free to carry on her plans. Fortunately for me, the office got another colleague of mine to do the work, and by the time I got there was nothing to do, so I returned home immediately to be with Maria, since the caregiver was not coming in that day. On getting home, the first thing I notice at the door is a pair of shoes, and I knew they didn't belong to me. Then, when I entered inside the house, I could see the shock on her face and an unnatural budge under the blanket that covered her. She tried to talk to me, but I suspected something was going on, and without wasting time, I pulled the blanket and I saw her caregiver trying to hide. I could not believe my eyes, and I could not believe that Maria could do such a thing to me again. I'm not sure I can explain what I felt inside that day, because it was beyond the usual heartbreak. I confronted Maria and the caregiver, and he confessed that he had been dating Maria for 8 months, and when I did my maths, that was 4 months before she had the accident. I was devastated, and I felt my head get light. Maria began to cry and beg me, but my heart was strong this time around. I was working my ass out, providing everything she needed, and even paying her lover to be with her, and there she was crying crocodile tears and asking for forgiveness. It didn't just end there. I also found out she was dating the physiotherapist too, so that was me bankrolling 2 of her boyfriends. I also found out she has been sleeping with multiple people behind my back, and the most heartbreaking one is that Maria was responsible for her inability to get pregnant. She was on birth control pills the whole time because she didn't want to get pregnant for any of her lovers and put it on me, yet she allowed me go through the emotional roller coaster while trying to shake her out of it. I was even forced to carry out a test because I thought I was the one responsible for her inability to have children, but she kept quiet the whole time. After I found out all of this, I had no other option than to leave Maria. I was sick of her, and I didn't care whether she died or not. As for the caregiver, I reported him to his employers, and I was able to squeeze alimony out of him. He also lost his job and abandoned Maria. Needless to say, I divorced Maria, and I wish I could make her pay for everything she did to me, but she was already in a terrible condition, so I left her to karma. After about a year, I was able to move on with my life. I eventually found someone who loves me, and we are planning to get married soon, even though she has a mother who needs nursing care. As for Maria, she basically lives off government subsidies, and she never got physically better. Both her caregiver boyfriend and physiotherapist left, and now she's struggling all by herself. I don't think I can forgive her for doing all of that to me, but I hope I do one day. The most important conclusion I derive from this story is to subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories in the future. Let me know what you thought about the author in the comments. Was his revenge too weak or too brutal?